I'm tired of dating, and I'm tired of blind dates, and I'm tired of making idle conversation with men I don't know and I don't care to know.
By 1984, the landscape of American adult cinema had fundamentally transformed. The theatrical golden age was dying. Home video was ascendant. And suddenly, the nation's most inappropriate fantasies were being played out on grainy videotapes in suburban basements. Amidst the deluge of cheaply shot, plotless reels, one franchise still aimed for something bigger. The intimate family drama, the suburban psychodrama wrapped in transgression, that franchise was Taboo. And its third installment would be both a farewell and a final statement about what the genre could be when it refused to compromise. Taboo III arrived at a moment of crisis. Budgets were collapsing, theatrical runs were disappearing, and the narrative ambition that had defined films like the original Taboo was increasingly seen as a luxury the market couldn't support. Director Kirdy Stevens knew this. He also knew that Taboo III might be his last chance to make something that mattered. So, working alongside writer-producer Helen Terry, one of the few female producers in the industry at the time, Stevens doubled down. They weren't interested in kink for its own sake. They wanted to explore why the forbidden felt so irresistible. He shot on 35mm film when everyone else was switching to video. He maintained careful lighting and composition. And he built his story around performers who understood that acting, real acting, could elevate even the most controversial material. At the center of it all was Kay Parker. By 1984, Parker had become something more than an actress. She was an archetype. The articulate, elegant, maternal figure who embodied the franchise's central transgression. Her character, Barbara Scott, wasn't just a mother in lust. She was a stand-in for the entire moral anxiety of Reagan-era sexuality. Parker had carried that weight through 2 films, delivering performances that critics both mainstream and adult grudgingly acknowledged possessed genuine emotional gravity. But by the 3rd film, Parker was exhausted. 4 years of controversy, 4 years of being defined by a single role. She wanted out. Not completely, but enough to reclaim some distance. Stevens faced an impossible problem. How do you continue the franchise without the actress who is the franchise? His solution was to expand the ensemble, to shift focus. The film's engine isn't just the genre scenes, but the emotional triangulation between Barbara, her son Jimmy, played by Jerry Butler, and her best friend Joyce, played by Honey Wilder. Where Parker had been wounded and introspective, Wilder brought knowing warmth. As Joyce McBride, Wilder didn't play guilt, she played acceptance. Her character had already crossed the same forbidden lines with her own son, creating a revelation that reframes Barbara's moral crisis as something larger than personal dysfunction. The dynamic between Parker and Wilder became the film's emotional core. Not judgment versus transgression, but isolation versus acknowledgement. The loneliness of keeping secrets versus the relief of finding someone who understands.
You and Brian? He's your son. You were making love to your son.
Look who's talking.
While Parker and Wilder were the anchors, Taboo III succeeded because it was populated by a who's who of golden age professionals. These weren't just bodies on screen. They were seasoned performers who knew how to sell psychological complexity. The cast featured the legendary Jamie Gillis, an actor known for his intense, often brooding presence. In Taboo III, he brings that trademark gravitas, helping to ground the film's more melodramatic swings. We also see Juliet Anderson, a sophisticated and self-assured performer who, like Parker, brought a level of maturity that was rapidly disappearing from the industry as it moved toward younger, bubblegum aesthetics. Rounding out the world were several faces that fans of the era will immediately recognize. Lisa Lake is in particularly sharp form as Diane, the primary catalyst for Barbara Scott's jealousy. Colleen Brennan, already a highly respected performer, appears in a small but impactful role. Even a young Ginger Lynn makes an early appearance, offering a glimpse of the superstar she was about to become. Behind the scenes, the cast worked on tight schedules and even tighter budgets. There were no studio trailers or craft services. Between takes, these performers, many of whom had mainstream aspirations, smoked on the patio, rewrote dialogue on the fly, and tried to maintain a veneer of normalcy in the face of deeply abnormal subject matter. It was this collective effort from a group of pros that allowed Taboo III to feel like a real movie rather than just a sequence of scenes. Of course, it wasn't all high art. This was still 1984. The film contains a strange hybrid of domestic soap opera and bizarre subplot choices, most notably a storyline involving Jimmy and his friend Brian trying to score a record deal for their rock band through an adult-themed marketing stunt. It sounds absurd, and it definitely was, but even these lighter moments were captured by cinematographer Tom McAdams with a moody, chiaroscuro visual style. Editor Leon Felberg cut it all to a score that felt less like a porno and more like a daytime thriller. The result is a film that sits at the intersection of transgression and artifice. A product of its time when the adult industry was still trying to imitate Hollywood, even as Hollywood tried to repress its own libidinal mirror. Taboo III understood something crucial about its cultural moment. This was Reagan's America. The nuclear family had been resurrected as national mythology. MTV and aerobics culture made sex omnipresent but sanitized. Taboo III ripped that facade apart. It asked, if the culture fetishizes maternal warmth, youth, and familial comfort, aren't we all already participating in the same taboo? Watch Kay Parker in the film's later scenes. There's a melancholy in her eyes, a recognition that this world, this version of Barbara Scott, is ending. Parker plays it with restraint, trusting the camera to capture what dialogue can't express. It is the performance of an actress taking control of her own narrative, choosing to leave rather than be defined forever by a single controversial role. When Taboo III premiered, it was marketed as the shocking conclusion to America's most forbidden story. It wasn't really countless cheap sequels followed, but it was final in tone. 40 years later, the film still occupies a strange space in history. It's too explicit for mainstream discourse, too psychologically complex to dismiss as mere smut. But perhaps the film's real achievement is simpler. It honored Kay Parker's choice. It proved that even in an industry racing toward disposability, craft still mattered. That performers deserved roles with psychological weight. Kay Parker left the industry shortly after Taboo III on her own terms, and the franchise she helped create remained a landmark. A reminder that for a brief, strange moment, adult filmmakers believed their work could be cinema. If you love these untold stories from cinema's most controversial eras, I create new videos every week exploring forgotten films and the hidden history of the industry. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you want an extended deep dive into the complete Taboo trilogy with exclusive research I couldn't fit in this video, check out the Patreon link in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
He's here. You can start things off. It won't take much. Just a little touch here, little touch there, and bingo! Get ready for a large pepperoni.